Good gracious. Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to Higher Definition Radio. It's the fever. I'm telling you, that's what got me. Want to wish everyone a happy Sunday. Um, definitely after Resurrection Sunday. Now we're into the spring fully. It's getting warm outside. You got eclipse going tomorrow. We just got a little bit of everything. We had a couple earthquakes this past week. We just got a lot going on in this world. Tia, how you been, man?
I have been doing very well. Living this senior mom life right now. Man, this is exhausting. I think worth it. Worth it, but this stuff keep you busy and definitely keeps your pockets open.
You might be doing too much, but let's hold different.
Hey, I don't know about anybody else that had to go through this, but I was excited when my son said he didn't want all the things that came with the cap and gown package. Just get me the cap and the gown. Wow. I was like, okay, no problem. That's awesome.
What all come with the cap? I thought that's all you got.
Invitations.
Oh my goodness. There's invitations, there's cards, there's t-shirts now, there's keychains, there's bookmarks, there's all kinds of stuff. And he was like, well, I don't need all that. He was like, just give me the cap and the gown and we'll take care of the invitations.
You look a little different. When I was coming through, my parents wasn't getting all that stuff. And I wanted all that or not, they wouldn't we weren't getting all that. That wasn't even happening. Mr. Davis, how are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. Good to see everybody again. Like I said, for last Sunday, happy Easter to everybody.
Easter.
Easter, EASTAHHH, Easter. But anybody who had a church program, I missed that. Put in the chat if y'all still have programs. I want to catch your church next year. If y'all still have kids going up to the stage for getting Easter speeches, getting clapped off the stage, plays, all that good stuff. Somebody playing Jesus, something like that. I want to see that stuff, man. That's nostalgic for me because I remember having to do that back in the day with God rest her soul, Alice Ann McClurkin. So I don't really see that much in churches anymore. And y'all let me know, if y'all are still doing that yourselves, this panel, man. But besides that, had a great week and looking forward to a good show, sir.
We did not do that. And but today for our scripture reading, my Easter speech was on there, the one that I got a beating for not learning when I was young because I couldn't get it together, man. It was Psalms 100. But I know Psalms 100, I can rattle that. I wasn't taking it serious. And
well, Lamont, do you remember that? You remember that kid that had to go up to the stage and all they had to say was Happy Easter, and they would just stand there and then they honor somebody to be on the side of the stage trying to whisper it to them and push it to them, and they just stand there and then everybody just start clapping. Like, all right, let's move forward. It's time to go home.
That's every day. I already know that.
Johnny had all week to say them 2 words. He couldn't even do that. So that's what I want to see. I missed that. That's okay, baby. That's okay. God is good.
This been many years ago. We went to a church. I was out while I was in the military, and some kid stood up and did one of the DMX prayers as his Easter speech. And you know how you hearing something and you like, man, is that like, man, that sounds sharp. And then, he had the inflections and everything.
He ain't growled, did he?
Oh, man, he went DMX.
Jesus.
Oh, goodness. Mr. Abel, how you been, sir?
Man, I've been doing great, man. We won the championship again. So, hey, what can I say?
Shout out to the University of South Carolina for an amazing year. To go to undefeated in anything.
Yeah.
People play their whole career top level sports and don't go undefeated. So congratulations to the University of South Carolina.
And shout out to Caitlin Clark, man, for coming in second place, man. That's great. Everybody don't get to do that, man.
But you on your own on that one, bro. Let's move forward, please.
Trying to get ran up out of here.
What are you talking about, man?
I'm just saying, trying to get ran up out of here.
Hey, that's another show. Let's put that on the books, bro.
Ooh.
Let's talk about how basketball can divide a country. Let's talk about that.
It is definitely divided the nation, and everybody acting like what? What do you mean?
Yeah, it turned political to me.
Yeah. Pastor Ed, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, and shout out to the Tennessee girl that choked at the end of their game against South Carolina and gave them that game because they would have one loss.
That's true.
I had never seen anything like that, to miss 2 free throws and then a girl that's not shot one all year drains a 3. That's amazing. So it was destiny for them.
Yes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
They fired their coach.
Yeah,
They sure
they sure
did.
did.
They let her go.
Yep.
That
Wow.
Tennessee coach, they let her go.
Yep.
Over that.
Tennessee is trying to live up to Pat Summitt, which you're never gonna
You're
live
never
up
gonna
to.
have it.
Nah,
Never
that's too
gonna
big
happen.
of shoes.
Yeah. So want to welcome everyone. We had talked about a little bit of everything, and I got one more left field thing to talk about before we get started on our topic tonight. Peace be still.
Here we go.
So, sometimes me and Everett, we find ourselves talking about weird things, and we talk about Amazon. Tia, what's the strangest thing you ever saw or ordered on Amazon? I can tell you mine, what made me think about it. So Everett, I'm gonna send you a picture of this. So I was traveling this weekend in the hotel, the toilet paper on the end, they had stamped it and monogrammed. They had put it in a little triangle and they had the hotel initial on it. I was like, man, I want that from the house. When you come to my house, I want to be able to have my toilet paper wrapped up. But anything you ever got, Tia, that's a little strange from Amazon or?
No, the strangest thing that I get from Amazon is stuff that I want. My family hates when boxes come to the house because they probably have gnomes in them. I have a gnome fetish. I have gnomes everywhere.
Wow. Never knew that, Tia.
Gnomes.
I have gnomes in the yard, gnomes all over the house. The kids think it's creepy.
Where does that come from?
I just think they're the cutest little things.
Okay.
Yeah, that is strange though.
So do you do the elf on the shelf stuff too, or just no?
I used to do elf on the shelf.
Okay.
I've stopped doing that after, Santa's not real. But
Another show, Tia. Another show.
Yes. So strangest things that come from Amazon around here are gnomes. So I have gnomes for every season in my house.
Wow.
There's a gnome decoration everywhere in here.
Wow. Learn something new every day.
And I'm sorry to take us in left field with this question, but I'm telling you, I even looked it up. They sell them on Amazon where I can get my toilet paper stamped. So it ain't just free rolling off. It's just neatly on there for the next person. Marlon, you ain't never ordered anything straight because Amazon has everything. If you can think about it, it's on there.
Yeah, I just just roundabout stuff. Like I said, it's just convenience. I don't barely shop at all, because you can get it just to come to your door. But I can't say that I've ordered anything where I opened a box and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" So no, I never knew that about the toilet paper. So when you say stamped, I'm not following you. What you mean, like your initials or something?
Yeah, your initials. You can get.
That's
Why would
weird,
you want that though? That's weird.
Whoa. Oh, let's not go there. I mean,
It is the strangest thing. So
the hotel had it, and I thought it was pretty neat. Your toilet paper wasn't just free rolling; it was stuck there. So
that's for those people that like to take all the condiments from the hotel. You go home, you got the Hyatt tissue.
Yeah, they marking their territory. To
they won't let you know when you get home. This the Hyatt stuff.
Just like we take them towels and robes.
Yeah. You going to jail now? You taking robes out of the hotel.
They're going to charge you if the robe is missing.
They walk around with Marriott on their chest.
Pastor Ed, you in the house with some women folk, so I know some strange stuff come to the house.
Here's the thing: when you're in a house full of all women, you don't know what's coming in. So I stopped looking. It's not for me, so I stopped looking.
Just let it go, right, Pastor?
I just let it go.
Just
some things are worth not knowing.
On the table or at the door and say, "Hey, you got to pay."
Yep.
That's it.
That's what I do with my wife. I just sit it down. You got something.
Yep.
Everett.
Oh yeah, man. I got my 1980s calculator watch. I don't know if you see it.
Oh,
wow.
I always wanted one when I was a kid. And Amazon looked out for me. The old Casio. And
sound like you looked out for Amazon, but that's another show.
And I got my eye on the Space Invader watch. I see it on here. Put it on my wish list.
Now that's old school.
Yeah.
So I know we're off topic. Just one last thing about this Amazon thing. So there is a app you can get that you can sign up and you pay $39 a month. And every week you get a package from Amazon. Don't know what it's going to be, but it's people's wish list packages. You just get a random package every week.
And you paying how much?
Every single week, $39.
$39 a week or a month?
So it's a month. You pay $39 a month.
Nah,
So-
my luck, I end up with some toilet paper with Lamont.
No.
Exactly, with Lamont's
So
initials
a
on
friend
it.
of mine told me about it. I tried it for like 3 months. The first thing I got was like a $200 blender. Like, it's some really good stuff. We haven't got anything bad yet.
It
So
sounds
what
like
was the second thing you got?
The second thing we got were these amazing little round, they're digital clocks, but they're also Bluetooth speakers. They're about the size of a basketball, but the very front of them is a dry erase.
yeah, they got you.
Like, super cool.
They got you.
Wow, yeah, I never heard of that. I already give enough money to Amazon, Tia, but thanks for that nugget.
Yeah.
There are people taking notice right now. There's
yes,
people all
they already
online
looking it
right
up now.
Oh, yes.
Thanks, Tia.
I'm
I don't
good.
think they'll be looking up the toilet
problem.
paper, but Tia, I think they'll look up what you just said.
Oh yeah.
How cool it would be to go to somebody's house and the toilet paper got their initials or name stamped in it. You'd be like, man.
If
going
anything with you,
home.
Lamont, I could see you getting First Timothy stamped on it, but not your initial.
Ooh, that's a good point there. Everybody on roll with that Timothy.
Oh,
So,
Oh, speaking of Timothy, the piece
Oh, thanks.
that
so
he did not.
want to welcome everyone to Joining High Definition. Sorry about the Amazon topic. Sometimes you just think about stuff and you have to get it out.
Yeah.
But we're talking about one of the more famous stories told in the Bible, about when Jesus was in the boat. Pastor Kurt, hey, Pastor Ed. When Jesus was in the boat and the seas were raging around him, and he wasn't disturbed. He wasn't moved by it. And everyone else was moved by it. They were afraid they were going to be dumped into the ocean. And when they woke him, he was still not fazed by it. And finally he said, peace be still. And that's Mark 4:39, one of the more famous passages. And it's talking about just the calmness that we should have. But he told the element to be calm, the wind and the sea. I think it was at the Sea of Galilee. And just want to talk about that. We have a lot of stuff going on right now. We've had a boat crash into a major harbor within the last 2 weeks. They're still recovering bodies. We've had 2 major earthquakes, one on the East Coast, one in Taiwan. And it's so much turmoil going on around us. And I'll start with you, Pastor Ed. And we can look at this 2 ways. Do we need to tell ourselves to be still, or do we need to try to change our environment for it to be calm? What are your thoughts?
So I'm a big perspective person, right? So focus, reaction, and then response. So to me, it's all about what your focus is on. If your focus is on what's bad, you'll always find something bad. If you want to see how many people are dying from COVID, there's a statistic for it. But so for me, I try to focus on what I can control, and I try not to focus on what's going on around me that's out of my control, because frankly, it's pain porn. You know, so folks I don't watch the news because frankly, I don't need another reminder that people have been shot. I know they've been shot. I don't need another reminder that people are murderous. I know that. So I try to stay away from those things. That's where my peace comes from, and focus on things that really matter to me. You know, and it might matter to someone else. So I'm not diminishing that. For that person that sits on the news all day and they'll go on Fox News and then get mad because they're conservative, or they go on CNN and they get mad because they're liberal. Like, what do you expect, right? So I just think that sometimes we need to change our focus, because a happy person or a sad person, typically they go through the same things. It's just perspective, right? You can have two people with the same story, with the same disease, and one's happy and one's sad, and it has everything to do with perspective.
Marlon, what are your thoughts? And Pastor Kirk put in about South Carolina changing the gun laws. Man, we're moving back to the Wild Wild West. This open carry. It's Wild Wild West in some of these southern states. What are your thoughts about changing our element or changing our environment, just being still?
I have to agree with a few of Pastor Ed's points, as far as even what resonated with me when he talked about, the news. And I can say, even thinking about COVID when it first started, I was literally attached to the television probably every day. And what I saw that they mostly focused on was the death count, not how many people were recovering from it. So, you would see that death count continue to climb every day. And honestly, with me just paying attention to that and not really focusing on, what good is coming out of it, it shows, if you don't change your environment like that, what can change as far as your perspective, as far as how you look at things. It's like Pastor Ed said, you can have two individuals with similar situations, and one still looks at the good in that situation while the other can continue to just always focus on the bad. So I would say, just for me, everything you don't have to respond to. You can change your environment like that. A lot of people think that everything requires a response, and it doesn't. Sometimes you can just be still. Now, are there some things that needs to be addressed? Yes. But I think, you control your environment, you control your reactions and things like that. So to me, you're a huge component in being able to have that peace that you want to have or want to see in your life.
Mr. Abel, what are your thoughts?
Everybody been hitting it on the head, man. I think that's one of the things that the Stoics got right is that, you could only focus on the things that are in your control. I mean, one of the things is like it speak about a archer, and your job is to go practice, take aim, do everything that you're supposed to do when it comes to archery. But once you release that arrow, it's up to the arrow. Like it ain't in your control. Your job is to do the very best you can, and then that's all you can worry about. One of the things I picked up on when I was watching the game today, and it kind of stood up to me because you can tell the people who let the pressure get to them, and the ones who are successful are the ones who are able to stay calm and cool and do their job, not try to do everything or try to take wild shots or do things they're not used to. But and it's amazing to see, like, and they all like, I'm at the age where all these college kids look like kids, and to see these little girls out there with young ladies out there with that much composure is great. And I try to live my life in a way to where I try to take like a golf philosophy. Like when you're playing golf, the people get in trouble when they fall behind one stroke and then they start trying to do things they ain't never done before in life, and things you ain't never practiced, things you ain't used to, and that's the challenge is to play your game, practice, prepare, and then play your game.
Tia, what are your thoughts? There's a lot going on out here right now. A whole lot. And you talked about having a senior. I remember my son was a senior in high school. It seemed like you couldn't turn on the news without kids dying in crashes or school violence, fights at school. But I was focused on that. You know what I'm saying? So I picked up on it because I was focused on it. What are your thoughts?
Yes, there is a lot going on. I have a 18-year-old, 14-year-old, 11, 10-year-old. It's when you think about that from a parental perspective, it's rough out here in what you see. We just lost a teenager here in Chester County days ago to teen violence. So yes, there is a lot going on. I'll reflect on some things that I learned in a Bible study class that I was in. We were reading this book. I got the book here. The book is called Created to Dream by Rick Warren. Very good book and very quick read for anybody that wants to pick up on something new to read. But one of the things we talked about, Mont, was we focus a lot on what's going on around us as opposed to how the things around us are changing us. How are they making you feel? And one of the things he talks about in his book is what happens to you is not nearly as important as what's happening inside of you. What are the things that are happening around us? What is that doing to us? How is it changing us as a person? How is it changing our relationship with God? How is that making us better? Or how is it making us worse? I think with all the bad things that are going on, if it's like Pastor Ed said, if we continue to focus on the bad stuff, it's always going to be bad. You know what I mean? You focus on good, there's always good. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is, there's always something bad going on. But at the same time, it's always something good going on. We get so caught up in we're trying to problem solve everything that is happening when God wants us to sometimes be still and make decisions about things that are going on. And the book talks about we confuse a lot of decision making with problem solving. We as people, as humans, want to problem solve everything. We want to know why the bridge collapsed. We want to know why the earthquake happened, why the people died. Where was God when all these things were happening? You know, he was here. He was present. But instead of focusing on God's presence in the situations, we focus on the situation. And then we're trying to problem solve those situations as opposed to the decisions and things that need to be made in his presence. And during those situations, what is he wanting us to do as a people during these situations? How is he wanting us to act? Is there something we need to be taken out of it that we're not getting because we're focused on the situation? And I mean, we're human. We can't help it. We're always going to be, you know, facing the situation at hand and what's going on. But sometimes we do have to be still and we have to take a step back and just sit for a minute. And a lot of times we can't be patient enough to do that so that we can hear what he's trying to tell us and what's going on and where we need to be and the purpose of these situations. What is our purpose and what's going on in this?
No, and everyone brought up some great points. And I just want to talk about it in a different way for a second. I see Pastor Kirk put a whole bunch of stuff. And for the people that know Pastor Kirk, he's an activist in the community. He does a lot of goodwill to the community. If he takes the philosophy to be still, activism wouldn't be there, right? Like sometimes you have to go and engage what's wrong in the community. If we're talking about teen pregnancy, you have to go out there and engage those topics. We're talking about drunk driving, you got to go out there and engage. We're talking about domestic violence, you have to engage it. So Pastor Ed, how do we square those things? We're saying we probably need to be still, sit down sometime, but we also need to engage what's going on to be active in our own communities.
So being still doesn't mean being inactive, right? Being still means do what you've already been assigned to do and do it well, right? So while you're waiting on the Lord to give you more insight, you already know doing good. You don't need God to clear you to do good. Like getting in the community, you don't need him to clear that. Me talking to somebody and trying to help them not to have another child. Because if they've already had a child, frankly, talking about the mistake they made is irrelevant, right? Now it's about how you're going to raise that child. How can we help you raise that child? How can you prepare yourself for what's coming, right? And I think too often we want to remind people of the mistake and not instead prepare them for the next, right? So we think being still is just, well, you have to time out of this stuff. It's like we're teaching our kids to time out of, when you're a kid, you can't say anything in church, but when you're 20, now all of a sudden we need you to vote. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. We need you to do this. But I will also say to you guys, and this is controversial maybe, but everybody always says the end time is now. If you're a historian, there were Christians were fed to lions. People were strung up on trees. Like, so every generation people were put in gas chambers, right? People were thrown overboard because they didn't have enough food to come to this country, right? They were thrown overboard because the boats were weighed down too much. So slaves were thrown over live, right? They were thrown overboard. So these are things that we've got to understand, that when our young people say to us, it's never been this bad, racism's never been this bad, we've got to give them perspective and teach. And I think a lot of this comes back to teaching. Being still means teaching, what did you learn from the past that you can now be active in the present, right? Because like Sister Tia said, it's about behaviors. What are the choices that we can make so we're not continually in this mess? If there's gun violence all around us, we can nod our head and say, this is a shame, or what are we going to do, right? What can we do in the constraints of our own house to teach safety, to teach whatever it may be? I think that's our responsibility. So stay active by teaching and stay active by communicating.
And Marlon, I could be wrong. I know someone might say I'm wrong, but I think our generation is one of the most non-active generations. Like we don't, it got to be something pretty bad for our generation to get engaged and take steps. Are we being still a little bit too much?
I would say it depends on the the individual, Lamont. As Pastor Ed said as well. To me, I kind of equate it to almost like prayer without works. You can sit and hope a situation, you can wish a situation, you can pray a situation, but sometimes the only way that's going to get better is you act on it. Even you can equate it all the way to bill collectors. You can be still and not communicate, not say anything, not take any action. Guess how that's going to end up? So for me, as far as that being still, you definitely have to be active in those situations. You hear a lot of people say, sometimes you have to fight for peace. You have to speak up in particular situations that, aren't good for you. You have some others that, I consider are in false peace. They tell themselves that they're in a good, peaceful situation. Everybody else, and even them, know that it's not that, but they choose not to act on it. They choose to be still. So for me, man, it's praying, putting God first, making sure that he's first in your life as well. But at the same time, you have to be, active to make sure that you are trying to guarantee that peace. Now, every time you act on something, does that guarantee peace? Can it cause even more turmoil trying to get to that peace? Yes, sir. Why do we have wars? Why do we fight over so many things? Why does, when someone passes in the family, sometimes it brings less peace than it should bring more peace in those situations. So for me, man, it's prayer without works. It's dead. You have to take action in your situation if you feel like you're not getting peace. And, like you say, peace is something everybody wants. Yet it's hard for a lot of people to find, man.
Mr. Stable, we being a little bit too still out here.
Well, I think 2 points. Pastor Ed made a good point when he talked about perspective. If you grew up in the 1960s, you were convinced that there was going to be a nuclear war in your lifetime, that American City was going to be wiped out by the Russians. Like, everybody just knew that. They were drilling instead of tornado drills. They were having nuke drills, and so again, like, not to say things aren't bad or things can't get worse. But again, let's just provide a little bit of perspective on it. And then, and then too, man, I think about how everybody, like Martin was talking about how we need to be active, and that is true. One thing I would point out is that everybody ain't called to do the same thing. Like, everybody's job is not to be Martin Luther King. Like, somebody got to do something else. And I always go back to the example of Elijah and Obadiah. Like, Elijah had his way that he was called to deal with Jezebel and Ahab, and Obadiah had his way, and there was no record of Elijah confronting Obadiah and calling him Uncle Tom and the sellout for being a part of their, I would say, administration, or being a technocrat inside of their government. But he used this position to help his people. And so I again, there's nothing wrong with us being critical of each other or trying to be constructive, but also keep in mind that you don't really know what that person's being called to do. And we ought to be praying for each other more than criticizing each other.
Tia, your thoughts. I know you do a lot in the community with young women, domestic violence, teen violence. Are we maybe being a little bit too still? Like, it takes a lot to get people moving and engaged to do something.
I think it's what everybody is saying on this panel. It's all perspective. It just depends on the situation, right? So in any type of advocating, even what Pastor Kurt goes out into the communities doing, trying to pull people together, there are things that you as an activist or an advocate have to take a step back and say, people are not ready for this right now. And then you've got to ask yourself, and you've got to work within a box sometimes. And you may not want to, but sometimes people are not ready for the message that you're ready to give. And so that means being still at that moment, but that doesn't mean no altogether. You know what I mean? It's just not now, not right now, so yes, I think in some things, my perspective, we are maybe too slow about it or being a little too still about it. But that is from my perspective of what I'm looking at and the things that I'm advocating for, right? So the things that you may be wanting to do or things that you may be seeing, you may be like, well, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's too many people talking about this. There's too many people into this. So even when I'm talking about domestic violence and teen violence, what falls into that is sexual assault. Teen rape is at an all-time high. Sexual abuse in families and incest is at an all-time high in families and in communities. But those two things are not things that you want to jump right in and start talking about in the church or out in schools and communities when you're having conversations with people, because everybody's not ready for that. Parents are not ready for you to come to a school and talk about sexual assault and someone touching their kids or their children getting raped. They're not ready to have those conversations, because then that means owning that, hey, someone is having sex, even if it's not consensual, right? So there are conversations out there and things that we as people are not ready for mentally. We're not ready for it. So sometimes we have to take a step back, and being still means just understanding that this is not the right time for the message that you have. And you should look at it and put it in perspective, the situation and the audience that you have. Sometimes the message isn't meant for that audience. So you need to, I say, table it. Be still, table that message, and wait for the right time. So being still isn't always about like an actual action or acting on it. Sometimes it's like a spiritual be still. Like, I just don't need to move right now, because God wants you to sit this on the table. He wants to sit it on the shelf, because it's just not time. It's not time for you. It's not time for the people, and it's not his time either. So you're not going to get the full benefit out of things if you moving on your own time and you moving out of perspective here.
And I'll go with you, Pastor Ed. And I'm not going to say all churches. I'm going to say some churches. I'm not going to say all, but some. It seems like there are a lot of busy work inside the church at times that is not fruitful to anything. Like, we're just busy, right? Mm-hmm. How do we teach better within the church walls?
Well, we're afraid of doing the hard work. The hardest thing is to go out in the community and invite people back. That is the number one thing. It's the Great Commission. It's what churches aren't doing. It's why churches aren't growing, because we're trying to do everything but that. We're trying to find a million different ways to avoid doing that. And because we won't do that, we become a club. So we're content within the walls because it's easier. It's easier just to continue to talk to the 50 people in the walls, 100 people, whatever, than it is to go out in our community, because we all say we want We want someone that's different. We want the people that no one reaches. I hear all that, but I don't see anybody in these communities that nobody reaches. I see them in the same communities, the church communities, because we're all recruiting that guy that's been at 13 different churches in the last 6 months, trying to convince him that the 14th is going to be the right one. You know, so I think that's inactivity. So we have become busy and not productive. We're running around in circles, but we're not getting anything done. But we're checking off meaningless boxes, right? We're checking off boxes that really don't matter. And our young people are distancing themselves from the church because they have no voice in this church. And every time they get a voice, we say, how dare you? How dare you question? How dare you? You don't know any better. You know, and as a result, they say, no problem. So they wait until they age out. So when they hit 18, they say, peace out. Instead of peace be still, they say, I'm out. Yeah. You know, and y'all figure it out. You know, and I believe that's where it comes down to. Give them the voice now, because they are activists. We are not activists, Lamont. I'm the same age as you. We wait for everything. Meanwhile, our kids have made things happen. You might not agree with everything they've said, but they've changed things.
Yes.
Things have changed. You know, they were militant. They marched when we didn't want to march, right? My daughters were out there marching in the midst of all this stuff. And it was dangerous. And me as a parent, my first thought was, I don't want you out there because it's dangerous. But at the same time, I do think that the church, we used to be the forefront of leading movement. Now we're more worried about going on mission trips across the country when we got people that taking the bus in our backyard. We're begging for planes. We're doing all this stuff because we want to look good in the world's eyes. Meanwhile, the people in our own community can't even afford to get to church because they don't have a vehicle, but we don't care about that. So we'd rather go to El Salvador or in Honduras and plant all these different things because we're not accountable to it. Then we come home and we got people in our backyard. We're like, Lord, I hope they don't ask us for money. So the church has become that. We do what we want to do and feel good about it. And I say that, you know, not all churches, right, but we can all do better. And stop waiting on the Lord to give you clearance to do what he gave you 2,000 years ago. What do you have to wait on the Lord to invite someone to church? Just do it.
Marlon, we'll see a lot of times the inactivity or activity. Like it's, I don't know if it's an 80-20 rule but it'll be the same people running around about to fall out in church. And then you have the group that they come in when church start, and when church over, they up out of there. How do we change that within the church body?
I think it's tough, Lamont, and I think I hate to say it, I'm not trying to be dim in the future, but it seems like that's the pattern. You know, you have the ones that are gonna come in and, you know, just want the service and be able to say tomorrow at the coffee, you know, break, I went to church, just to be able to check that box off. And then you have others that are really truly about uplifting the kingdom and doing what they need to do. But the biggest part of that, Lamont, even when it comes to peace, those individuals get burnt out, man. And that's where you start to see, you know, problems in leadership, you know, problems with, you know, that to me, that team doesn't even taking care of each other enough because they're doing so much for the church. They don't even have time to bond as a unit where they should be strengthening each other, because they're giving so much of themselves to everything else, trying to keep those things going. And then you talk about, you know, trying to disciple someone. And, you know, even in my experience, you can get let down so much that people seem interested till the commitment part kicks in. And, you know, it's always, disciple someone so they can take over what you're doing. Disciple this person, disciple that person. You know, tried that over and over and over, but you know, it's that commitment part, man, that really always comes back to bite me. I don't want to speak for anybody else on the panel, but you know, maybe show up 1 or 2 times and next thing you ghosted, you don't know what happened. And I like what Pastor Ed said as well. You know, you got churches with missionary teams that don't even go on a missionary. And, you know, and then we'll go to neighborhoods that we feel that are safe, that kind of looks most like ours versus going to the, you know, some of the ones that may even need it even more. And I like what Pastor Ed said as well. You know, we're spending all this money to go across to other countries, and we got plenty of people that need help that's right here. So to me, it's like, I think we wait on groups to do things when things that we could be doing on our own. We have that power. I don't have to wait on Everett and Tia to team up with me for us to go out in communities. We can do those things. But I think we have too much focus on one day of the week, Sunday, where everything should be fixed in that one experience, and then I don't see you again until the following week. Of course, churches have Bible study, things like that, but I'm speaking of the main focus on that, Lamont. And when people come there, they're looking for some type of peace, tranquility, but sometimes you can be in church and don't even have peace there. So it's like, then what do you do there? Because I think someone put in the chat in Facebook, talking about church hurt, but she made a great point. I forgot her name, but basically she was saying, there's no such thing as church hurt. It's really where those individuals, people in the church hurt people. So, when people be in the church, it's the people, not the church. So I would say, man, as far as being able to, just how do we fix that, Lamont? I think only God can fix that, man. I would love to see, where we have, 80% of the people doing the work versus the 20% doing that work. But I think it's going to come down to if people are coming to church for the right reasons. A lot of people now drawn, and nothing against these bigger churches. So nobody put nothing in the chat or come after my family. But, people are more attracted now to a show. They're more attracted to, it's like almost now the bigger churches, you almost like you head into a concert or something. I don't know. It's just a bit different vibe, and people are more attracted to flashing lights and the big stage and laser lights going off and things like that. But at the end of the day, man, it's about the word. It's about whether you're getting fed, not whether your eyes are being fulfilled and and all of this looks so great. What are you being fed? What happens when you go home? What does your week look like after going to those particular services? Because I don't care if your church is a hut or if it's a mansion. If you're not getting fed, it don't matter.
Everett, I think when in the church body, maybe took not all the peace be still too literally. We just sitting back waiting on everybody else to do it. What are your thoughts?
Hey, this might be hard for people on this panel to understand, because you all are very outgoing, social butterflies. But in a lot of ways, the church is the worst place in the world to fail at. You don't want to be the guy that's running the soundboard, and the first time those mics feed back, somebody gonna be like, get him out of there. You don't want to be the person singing and mess around and miss a note or be off beat. Like you got, I mean, you got to be bad at something before you get to be good at it. And we just expect perfection on day one. People who know that, I know me, I know what I can't deliver on. And I'm not about to get up there and embarrass myself on something or deal with a lot of criticism. And then some people are more outgoing, have more outgoing personality. Criticism and stuff like that don't really bother them. And they willing to put themselves out there, to do it. So again, there's that other part of it. And I'm not disagreeing with what you guys said. I'm saying that's another factor. And again, understanding that some people are just lazy, right? Put that in there too. And then
real quick, I agree with you on that. It is a lot of pressure that comes with those positions. And I think the part that can mess with your piece is almost like, even if you're a professional and you do these things a lot, it's still expected for you to not be human and ever make a mistake. I don't know if y'all been in church, even being in charge of audio live, it's like sometimes people don't even understand things happen with those things that you're like Pastor Ed said, beyond your control sometimes. But it's just like even the pressure having that Sundays versus, and I get what you're saying, E. A lot of Sundays, I would love to just be able to sit in the audience, listen to someone preach, and go home. Instead of coming in early before everyone else, having to set up all this equipment, making sure everything's working live, setting up, screens, things like that, hoping nothing glitches through the actual service without being called out. And you take all of those pressures of that, E, and you still continue to do that. And like I tell my wife, the thing that keeps me going is because I'm doing it for God. I'm not doing it for man. If I was doing it for man, I would have been done, brother.
Yeah,
but that resonated with me when you stated that, because it is pressure coming with that. You do have lazy people, and then you have other people that don't want to step up and even have the responsibility of it, because there is a responsibility of excellence as it relates to God.
And then take it even further, what I was saying, that you you're somebody who's been in front of people since like you was a little kid doing talent shows and then going off to perform and concerts and things like that, music videos, right? So again, there's something that you're comfortable with that other people have to become more comfortable with. And I think as Christians, we have to have a more nurturing, attitude. Not saying that you don't have that, but I'm saying overall, we have to be, I guess, more tolerant of people who step up to help and then, don't measure up at first. Keep going. Like these, and then the other part I want to bring up too is that you actually brought up for me, but I want to just nail back down on it. Just keep in mind your why, like why you're doing what you're doing. And Michael Jordan never, got burned out, playing basketball. Kobe Bryant never got burned out playing basketball. Like they played hard, they practiced hard, they showed up every night, they did what they had to do because they loved the game. And again, if just like you said, the only reason why you're doing it is for the love of God. But when you're doing it to please, or because mama wants you to do it, or somebody pressured you into doing something, you're gonna burn out. So,
Tia, what are your thoughts? And I do want to touch on something Everett said in a minute about church can be one of the worst places you can fail. But what are your thoughts about we being still a little too much?
I'm definitely in agreement with Everett on this one. People, I know, just young people just don't want to feel like they're being criticized or they're being a victim when they go to church. They go to church and, we've been told our whole life we're going to church to be saved. This is a safe place. And, but you hear people talk about people all the time, judging people. And like he said, you make one mistake and you're out the door. Like, where is the grace that we're all supposed to have in the building? Where is it? You don't see it at the church. You don't see it. And so we're telling young people they should have these things and they should be doing these things, but we're not doing them. We're not doing them when we're sitting in those pews. We're not extending that grace. We're not telling people, these things that we're, telling them they should be doing all the time. We're not practicing those things. I think it's Linda Jeter put up something good that I think is important. Some people are accustomed to the routine. What we were talking about, like some people just want to go and they want to sit and they want to go home. It's the routine of things. Mm-hmm. It is the routine. It is exactly what Marlon said. They want to be able to say, I went today. Mm-hmm. If you ask them what they heard, what they learned, it don't matter. They checked the box and they went because they grew up like a lot of people grew up saying, if you go to church, you're going to heaven. If you don't go to church, you're going to hell. So-and-so don't go to church. They don't never go to church. They don't tithe. They don't do this. And so, they're going to hell. But who said?
Hey, and then too, man, this is an argument that's been going on since Mary and Martha. Somebody working and somebody just sitting there, gaining from the experience. So
absolutely. I mean, you go to work. It's no different. You go to work. Somebody working. Somebody sitting there working and somebody not doing nothing.
And see,
okay, so it's no different. However, you still getting your check, and the person that ain't doing anything still getting their check. Who really lost in this? Is the question. Who's really losing something in this when you really dig down into it and really look at it? The person that is looking at the other person saying you're not doing this and you're not doing this, those people are losing in their own mind. You're losing out in your own mind. You're losing in your own circle because you're the one that's looking and pointing the finger and saying something's not happening. If you feel like something should be happening, get up and make the stuff happen instead of pointing the finger and expecting someone else to do it for you.
Yeah. And Tia, and the reason I can really relate to that as well, even when I was young, I was that person. That went to church just to say at work the next day that I went to church. It just felt good to say I went to church. Couldn't tell you what the pastor probably stated. Couldn't tell you what I got out the word. Didn't even know what I was looking for at the time, and was putting my job before God. because it was all about money and making sure, you take care of your family. And I was taking everything on my own. And, I was saving at that time, maybe not even giving God the credit he deserved, for even allowing me to continue to get through those situations when I was trying to take everything on my own. And I would say at that point in my life, I didn't have any peace. I didn't have inner peace. I didn't have peace with God, because literally everything that I was doing, I felt like I did it. This is Marlon. I'm doing this all. I don't need nobody else, things like that. So for me to go to church would be like, hey, it was that front, what I'm saying, to say that, hey, I'm still going to church, even though I'm out here doing everything on my own. But I would say, once I was able to finally get out of my way, that's when I started seeing more peace, because I was able to do things, more Christ-like, not perfect, but to involve him in a lot of those decisions. Even to this day, with me and my wife, each day waking up each morning, thanking God for allowing us to wake up in our right mind, just thanking God for another day, thanking him, like Tia said, just for grace and mercy, for everything that we continue to do. And he still allows us to be here through all of our mistakes. So for me, just having that full armor of God is pretty much our routine now. And to be able to have a word, so when these situations arise, like we have daily, because God didn't promise there weren't going to be turmoils and things in life. If you look in the Bible, everything that came great out of something was a challenge. Wasn't anything easy. That's life. But God didn't promise that. But what we should do is put on the full armor of God. So when these things do come up, we do have a word for these things, and we'll be able to maybe sit still through some of those things and know when to pull out that sword and fight.
And Marlon, just to piggyback on some of the things you're saying. So complacency is the worst thing you can have in the church.
Facts.
Complacency, habit, doing things by habit. Somebody posted something just a second ago about having a spirit of habit. I think it was Gene. He said there needs to be a true spirit of worship and not a spirit of habits. That's what a lot of people go to church for, is out of habit, not because they truly want to learn something, hear something, or expecting to get something. It is out of habit. So, and this might offend some people, and some people might get upset. Just don't come for me on this, because I come back. Okay, I come back.
We're putting disclaimers out here tonight.
Yes, there's some disclaimers. I know people will come for me. Complacency produces some of those worst people at church, right? Complacency and people that come to church by habit are some of the worst people you can have in your church, because those people are going to come. One, they don't have an open mind. They're producing negativity before they even hit the grounds.
Preach, sister.
They have negativity going on before they even step foot in the door. Sister so-and-so better not say nothing to me. She better not even look at me today. The old usher so-and-so that don't never, want to let you out when somebody talking, she better let me out today. I got to go to the bathroom. They already come with the negativity already there, but it's because of the habit. I got to show up today because I got to look everybody down. I got to judge everybody. I got to see what everybody else is doing. I have to be the judge here. I got to be Judge Judy at the church. I got to check everything out. I got to check my boxes. They're coming with the negativity and the complacency that we don't need. What we need is people coming to church with an open mind that want to do something, that want to hear a message. This is why people leave churches. People don't, when you have somebody that's going from church to church to church to church, it ain't the church all the time. It's not always the church. Sometimes it's the person, because they are so complacent and set in their ways about what they expect and what they want to see in a church, that they don't have a mind open enough to take in something new, to understand that God may be trying to open your mind up to a bigger picture of him, a bigger relationship with him. Expect something new on Sunday, every Sunday. It's like Everett said on the show one day, if you going in and you ain't getting changed and you ain't leaving feeling different every Sunday, you ain't got nothing. You left with the same thing you came with. Nothing.
Hey, but
and real quick, go ahead, Everett.
Are we setting up an unrealistic standard though? Because those people are always going to be there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So is it? Can we focus more on the good and the people who are doing the right things and try kind of build around?
You're making my point, Everett, is that those people are always going to be in those pews. You're going to go to church and you're always going to have habits, or sometimes what we're called tradition is habit. We're always going to have those things, but there always has to be openness to try something different and have a different experience in the presence of God.
And Lamont, real quick, and I know we can talk about church all night, but what I would say as well, we talk about even, like I talked about, just saying going to church is to check off a box. But what you have to recognize too, you have people that join ministries just to check off a box, to where they don't have any intention of operating in excellence. They don't have any intention of being, God fearing, any intention of, being able to run that particular ministry and do what they need to do for that particular position, but they want to be able to say, I am a part of this. So I think what Tia's saying as well is, if you do decide to do those things, I'm not saying you have to be perfect. You shouldn't give people grace and mercy. People aren't going to make mistakes. Heck, I made a lot of mistakes in the position I've been in to this day. And I've even seen my growth as far as how I started out not knowing so many things and were able to learn those things. But I will say this, if you sign up for a particular ministry, people will see right away if your intentions are good or not.
And just one last thing about this, Everett, I think one of the biggest things in bringing those people up and like making a point to point those things out is to understand that some people that truly want to get something out of church and want to be active, sometimes they fear those people. They're in church, they're sitting in pews, and they're complacent because they fear people in church. They fear those traditions. They fear those habits. And so fear can be one of the biggest barriers between moving forward in the church and staying stagnant. Fear can also be a big barrier between where God wants you to be and where you are, and fulfilling his purpose and not fulfilling his purpose. He doesn't want us to be doing things out of fear. So when you're sitting in church and you want to get up and give your testimony, but you're so in fear that the person that we're talking about or some of the people that we describe all the time are sitting there going to judge you or going to make you feel bad for stepping outside of your comfort zone and speaking. That's not good at church.
Hey, but think about it, is that ain't everywhere. Again, I know.
No, it's not.
I'm not saying that everybody's saying it's everywhere, but just I think that needs to be said that's not everywhere. And I mean, just like there's a particular McDonald's that I'll never go to again. Like they done burnt me too many times. I don't want to be nowhere fighting, and I don't want nobody arguing and treat me bad. But I'm still gonna go to a McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna swear out the whole restaurant chain just because there are a few bad apples. And I'm just kind of in fear that we having this Ty Tribbett moment where we condemning the church as a whole. No. Right. I mean, I know that's not what we're doing because I know you guys. I understand what you're saying, but I just wanted to be clear to the audience that this ain't everybody. This ain't every situation. And then sometimes you find yourself in a bad situation. We talking about being stagnant. Sometimes members just need to move and put themselves in a better position.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they should be called the Son of God. Matthew 5:9. Pastor Ed, and I'll leave this as our last question. What happened to our prayer life about being still, like having peace, our prayer life, our prayer circle? What happened to that? We as humans sometimes talk about everything but our relationship to God. What are your thoughts?
Everything we've created is the purpose of minimizing communication, like direct communication to me. Like every advance in communication is actually minimized direct communication. So I can text you now. I can get on a call now. I can do all these things now, so I don't have to talk to you man to man anymore, woman to man, whatever. It's now everything is avoiding that conversation, right? And we do the same with God. It's not convenient, right? It's not convenient to pray because pray takes too long, and everything else is instant in this world. right? If you don't see one McDonald's, go 5 blocks. You'll see another one. They'll microwave your food the way you want it instead of the way at the one you went to, Everett. So if you think about that, you know, when we've stopped praying, because prayer is it takes time and it's not instantaneous, and everything we want to see a result for what we do right away, right? So I think that goes back to teaching too. So even if what I'm praying for hasn't happened, I'm getting peace knowing that God is on the case, right? I'm getting peace knowing that God has his hands on it. That's enough for me sometimes. That has to be enough, because some situations, we got folks right now on ventilators in the hospital at our church. So what am I going to do? It hasn't changed yet, but I have to have peace knowing that a God who brought people back from the dead, and I've seen it, he can do it again. If he's done it before, he'll do it again. And I think we've got to have that mindset sometimes. You know, I've lost people. My wife lost her sister to murder, right? Her boyfriend murdered her. So we understand that if that can happen, anything can happen. But we know that prayer is the only thing to get you through some of these situations, that there is no power to do anything else. You know, sometimes there's nothing else you can do but pray, but we've got to teach it. Everything has to be taught. We assume too much in church. We assume that people know how to pray. We assume they're comfortable with it. And as soon as they mess up, we put them on Facebook and say, look at this heathen praying in a way that we don't know how they pray. Well, teach them then. You know, and I believe that most of what we do has to happen at home. You want to change the world, change your family. You want to change the world, teach your family. And if everyone will just teach their family, the church will be where it needs to be. Whoop them at home. Church won't have to whoop them.
I'm about to have call Marlon, Pastor Marlon. Marlon, you've been on the roll tonight. We as humans, especially Christians, talk about a lot of stuff, but our prayer life, getting that direct communication with God, it's interesting. What are your thoughts on prayer and our lack of prayer?
Yeah, prayer is very important. I'll first preface that. But the flesh wants what it wants a lot of times. And sometimes them prayers don't get answered quickly like we want it. I think like Pastor Ed said with that microwave revolution, Lamont, I mean, we'll go to the gym and do 5 push-ups and be looking in the mirror like something going to change that quickly. That's not how it works. You know, it's a marathon. It's not a race. So I know prayer life is very, 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 very important, man. And it's, you know, a lot of times, like Tia said prior on the show, you know, everything's not going to be done in our time, man. And I think that's where it's really hard for us to understand, you know, when we're in the midst of particular situations where we are uncomfortable, where we don't feel like we have that peace. And we're like, you know, God, when are you going to change this? I've been praying about this since November of, 2019, and nothing still hadn't changed, or nothing seems like it's changing. And then what's so crazy about the way God works, at the blink of an eye, he'll just kill that situation. You're good, and you move forward. So, but I think the issue is, Lamont, is that, yeah, we pray, you know, me and my wife, we pray daily, pray in church, you know, we thank God. But at the same time, do we get in situations where we still question why? Yes. It's human nature to question those things. But at the same time, you know, yeah, you're saying prayer, and you should have faith, and we should just give it all to God, right? And cast all your cares upon him, and don't worry about it. Just let it go. He's got it. But then that human side of you, even after you can even say those things and believe that you're believing what you're saying. But then that human side can have you still up at night, worried, frustrated. You know, God, fix this. What is going on? Whether it's healing, whether it's something going on with your children, all of those things, man, we want that done now. And if it's not done now, sometimes you start to doubt if your prayers are being heard. So I would say prayers are very important, Lamont. We still have to have that strong connection with God. We still have to put him first. And, in the end, still trust that he's going to take care of that situation. But speaking for myself, I will be lying if I would say that I've said I just give it all to him and don't say anything else about it. And it never crosses my mind. I never worry about it. I never contemplate it. I haven't lost sleep on it. I'm human. It happens. But in the end, I can tell you, through all of those situations I've been through where I didn't understand what God was taking me through, he's always restored my situation, man. And that's what I can stand firm in, even when I feel the certain ways that I feel when I go through those things. So it can shake your peace. You know what I'm saying? Like we talked about earlier, it's not guaranteed that this road is going to be paved. You can go through roads in life, potholes everywhere, but God navigates us through those things, man, if we just continue to put him first. But is it easy? Heck no, brother. It's not easy at all. But we continue to put him first, man, and that's what I can say. Just trusting in God, I know that in the end, there's a light at the end of that tunnel. Can I see it sometimes? No, I don't see it sometimes, but he does, and that's all that matters.
I'm going back to what Everett said, and I'm gonna go to you next, Everett. Messing up in some churches can be the worst thing you do. Mess around and have a janky prayer out loud. Folks gonna jump on you like they ain't never, whispering and snickering on you. Mr. Abel, our prayer life.
I think Pastor Ed talked about, in a different context, talked about direct communication. It's the same way with God. We can't text God. We can't instant message him. Like we got to have a direct line of communication. We can't ask somebody to ask God something. We got to have a direct line. One of the things that makes me very uncomfortable is asking people for help, any kind of help. Advice or whatever. Like I just don't enjoy it. But I'll ask Mont something in a heartbeat because we talk every day. You know what I mean? Like the more comfortable, the more you talk, the more comfortable you become. And then the other part of it is trust. Like how can you trust somebody that you never talked to? You ain't even read about them. You just hear about them one day a week. There's not going to be no trust. So it's about communication. It's about trust. It's about having a relationship, with God.
Amen. Tia, your thoughts, prayer life, and then our prayer circle. Like some of us praying, but we PREYING on each other. Man, I'm telling you, it's rough out here, these prayer lives and praying lives. What are your thoughts?
All I can say, I don't know where I would be without prayer. Let's just start it off by saying that. I can remember college days, me and Dr. Gallman passing each other in the halls at Winthrop, grabbing each other to pray in a corner in the hall because we didn't know how we was making it through the semester, man. Like it's final. So when I say I know prayer works, and I'm a product of a praying grandmother, a praying mother, a praying grandmother, grandfather. Like I'm that, like it works. I can't even put into words how important your prayer life is. And, some people say, well, they don't hear you pray or they don't see you pray. That doesn't mean it ain't happening. You have your relationship. It's like Everett said, you build that relationship. And Lamont, you're in supply chain. I'm in supply chain. You know how important it is to have relationships with your vendors and relationships with people and building that rapport. What Everett said, I think that's like one of the biggest things you can take out of the night. Like, how do you trust someone that you don't talk to? How do you relate to someone or even, want to talk to someone that you don't have a relationship with? The relationship is so important, but how are you having a relationship if you're never talking? If you're never connecting? And prayer is that platform to connect. It is that platform, that space to build that rapport, to build that trust. Or like Marlon was saying, it's that platform for you to get that armor, to put that suit on every day and go out here and be able to take on this world and deal with things. Prayer, what brought me through as a praying mother when my son was sick for 2 years, in and out of doctors, and we couldn't figure out what was wrong with him for 2 years. And then God put in front of us a doctor that ran one test that nobody else would run. After prayers and prayers and prayers and laying hands on my son, and we know what's wrong. So prayer works, and you just have to know that That's how you're going to get through. That's how you're going to make it through. This is how you're going to connect with God. This is how you're going to make it every day. This is where your faith is.
Tia, let me excellent points from everyone. And as we get ready to close out, I was thinking about something you said, and I'm guilty. Like some of these testimonies, folks be talking about, they just be bragging. That's all. They just bragging about their new car, their vacation. That's all they doing. That's why I think they had limited testimonies. Folks be doing too much bragging. Pastor Ed, you can't say anything because you a minister of a church, and I don't want to get you in trouble. But
traveling mercies.
Come on, man. Everett, tell me I'm wrong, man. Folks be just doing some bragging out here.
That's a different show, man. Well, folks be asking for traveling mercies and be giving their whole itinerary, man. Like, okay.
That's the head. You can't. You just need to be stoic and stone faith on this. I don't want to get you in trouble. Well, Marlon, come on, man.
I think a lot of times it's intent. I'll give an example. You have someone that, maybe got their first home. That's a blessing. You know what I'm saying? It's an investment. It's something they should be proud of. It is a testimony based on where they may have come from. But I do agree, Lamont, you may have some people, and I've seen it happen, that use the pulpit or even the church as a bragging, point. So I have seen that happen. So I would say it can go 50-50, sir. I don't think everybody that gets up to tell a testimony is trying to brag.
I'm not saying that, but
but I know, it's just like, say if Tia would have gotten up and just like she just did just now, she just did the same thing you would have done at church. And that's what people have to understand. You'll need a building to have a testimony. Tia just told us what happened with her child. 2 years. God knows how many prayers she went through, felt like they were probably, and I'm not speaking for you, Tia, but maybe felt like they weren't being answered. God, what is going on? Why haven't you delivered my son? Why isn't he healed? It's been this amount of time. Flesh kicks in, doubt kicks in, things like that. And then at the instant of, like Tia just talked about, the exact example I talk about, God sends a doctor that be able to test that, find out what's wrong with her son. And he's good now, right, Tia?
Yes.
Yeah.
On medication, but good.
Right. And he's good. And that's what I'm saying, Lamont. So something like that to me qualifies for a testimony at church. Now, like you talked about, I got a young guy I work with at work that, was telling everybody, every class, I do the training at work. So every class he'd be introduced to, he would testify that he was about to go to London. And, I'm doing this and me and the wife doing this and doing that. And I'm just like, why are you telling everybody that? You know what I mean? Like, why you have to test them? Even when you're introducing yourself, you're saying this to everyone. So stuff like that. Yeah, Lamont, I get your point with that. But I think there are some legitimate testimonies that people have. And and to be honest with you, with those legit ones, you give others hope that may be going through a similar situation like that. And that's all I have to say about that.
Can I add a little something?
Pastor Ed, you gonna get yourself
just a little.
Hey, don't lose no members now.
Just a little. One of the problems is because church is not a safe place that we share good news with one another. That's the only avenue people have. They don't feel comfortable sharing, hey, I got a promotion, because haters are always haters. So you just got a promotion you've been working for. And instead of them saying, oh, that's great, you want to say it, you want to share it with the people, and you can't. So the only time you have is now you got a mic. So I just think sometimes if we were a little more open to celebrating with other people when they celebrate, it wouldn't take them getting up in front of the church and first giving honor to every person that's alive before they go into their testimony. It would be all right.
God made a way. I didn't think I was going to be able to afford this brand new car, but he made a way. I put my hands on it. Never mind. Let me get moving.
I think, Pastor Ed's wife put up another good nugget here that, like Everett dropped earlier. She put up a good nugget. The answer is in the waiting. It's in the waiting. It's the having the faith. Nothing ever comes when we want, and we always want to give up so fast. It's like he said with this microwave time we living in. We want everything right now, but God don't want you to have everything right now. If you can get everything you want right when you ask for it, what do you need him for?
And sometimes we can't handle everything we ask for.
Exactly.
Also, supposed to be praying for Mercedes Benz and BMWs, man, you struggling on this Toyota. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
we have to be careful.
Yeah, sometimes you need to get that education while you waiting so you can be ready for what you about to have.
Amen.
As we do
I know God ain't trying to give me that lottery. He know I ain't gonna do right.
Yeah, that's the problem. He knew you wouldn't do right on that lottery money. You hit that lottery, and you wouldn't do right. All right, as we do our wrap up, this has been a great topic. We veered a little bit, but I think it's important stuff talking about life and how we pray and how we're calm in stressful situations. And there's so much more we can tackle on this one topic because, man, it's tough out here. And just think about it. There was an earthquake in the eastern part of the U.S. And if you know anything about the fault lines, they're saying Charleston area sits on one of the biggest faults in the country. And I know we always think about California to the west. Somebody's stressed out thinking about that, or people who lived through that event earlier this week are stressed out. If your livelihood is dependent on Baltimore's boating or cargo ship, that's shut down. People are stressed out. Like, there's always chaos. You know, I see all these happy folks talking about the eclipse tomorrow, but man, there's some troubling things going on in the world besides eclipse, you know. And I guess that's the way sometimes we mask our problems by jumping into something else that makes us happy. Pastor Ed, any final thoughts? Any final about peace, that finding that inner and outer peace?
Yeah, I want to encourage people. There are people watching tonight that are in depression right now. They're stressed about their bills right now. They're stressed about their kids. My baby has migraines, right? She's trying to run track with these migraines. So it's stressful, right? So I will encourage you that we're here for each other. And if you need someone just to listen, just to listen and pray with you, I'm here for that, right? We're all here for that. And I think if we can get to the point where we can be safe places for each other, yes, we should take it to God first, but he gave us each other. So if you're going through a storm right now, trust and believe if you talk to enough people, someone else is going through the same storm, or they've already been through it. So we can help one another. So don't feel guilty that you're stressed. Don't feel guilty that you're having certain feelings about certain things. Don't even feel guilty if you're upset with God right now. Tell him. Go to him right now and just tell him, Lord, I'm mad with you right now. Lord, I'm discouraged because you're not listening. And get the dialogue open because he already knows your heart anyway. So stop perpetrating and stop praying for world peace when really you need a job. Pray for what you need and be specific with it. We serve a God that will answer specific prayers if we give them the specific prayers, and stop asking amidst. Stop asking for peace in the Middle East when the Bible says there will never be peace in the Middle East. So we're praying for things that won't happen. They can't happen.
Marlon, any final thoughts?
I would say, how we define peace due to everything that is currently going on in the world today is really solely based upon, how we kind of view life. I think it goes back to what Pastor Ed said at the beginning. If our focus is always on the world's views and our views, we probably guarantee not to have peace because we're not aligned with Christ. It's up to us, really. It's free will. We either let the Lord abide in us, or we let everything else consume us of the perfect gift of peace that God can give us. But I think it's really about what we focus on, what you allow to be your focus. Is your focus going to be watching the news every day and seeing all the tragedies and then just looking at the world as this grim place and nothing's ever going to get better? Or is your focus making sure you have, daily time with Christ, studying the word, again, putting on the full armor of God, knowing that, you have a word for these situations that arise? And I think it's like Tia stated as well, having that relationship with God will help you face a lot of the turmoils that you're still going to continue to face in this life. But facing them by yourself, you're guaranteed to be defeated. Just like I told y'all prior, just trying to do everything on your own, you can guarantee destruction. But building that relationship with Christ, once again, it's not going to be easy. You're not going to always have peace beyond understanding. Sometimes people can tell you that, and it could be a word that they gave, and sometimes you're not even feeling that way because we are human. Free will is something else, Lamont. It would be nice if God could just program all of us robots, and soon as something happens, I go to the word and I read. That's not who we are. But it really depends on what you consume your focus with. And if you're consuming it with God and you're getting his word on a daily basis, is everything going to be rainbows and flowers and all the time? No. But in the end, at least you have a word to apply towards that situation. And I love what Pastor Ed said, changing your family. That stuff starts at home. Don't depend on the world to teach your kids. Don't depend on the world to really give you anything. Don't depend on man to give you anything. You put your trust in God, and that's where you will find peace.
Tia, any final thoughts, final word?
Not really much. I think the panel has nailed everything on the head tonight. It's been a great show, great panel. Enjoyed everyone and what everyone is saying tonight.
Mr. Abel, final words, final thoughts?
Yeah, like Tia was saying, great show, great panel. Great guest. Once again, it's hard to call you a guest, brother, but great to have you again. But one thing I do want to leave you with, man, if we want to try to increase people's participation in the church, one of the things we can do is stop sharing these videos of people messing up in church. People getting up to sing and missing notes. Musicians that are not on point. I done seen multiple videos of people's teeth falling out in church, and we pass this stuff around and we laugh about it, but this ain't the old days when just people in church make fun of you. Now the whole world is laughing at you, and most people aren't built like that to put themselves up to that kind of ridicule. So let's be careful about the things that we share. Again, that things in church, they get on my nerves too, but I gotta recognize that my nerves aren't the standard, and I gotta be able to tolerate things that might go against the grain for me, but not going against the word of God. And so I gotta be careful not to make myself the standard and then try to understand that the word of God is the standard.
Amen.
I want to thank everyone for watching and joining. I mean, the topic, one of the more famous stories told in the Bible about peace be still. I think we've all heard it, but diving into the contextual part of it, sometimes stuff. And I think that's a lot of time. We hear stuff over and over and have no clue what the reference is, and we made up our own reference to what a parable is in the Bible or what a scripture is, and it's not that. A lot of times we've just heard it so much without studying or reading ourselves, and we make up this thing because it makes us feel good or feel better, and using scriptures out of context. So I want to thank everyone for watching, joining, listening. I don't know if we were on air or not when Pastor Ed, we were talking about COVID, but COVID is still real out here. Please be safe. For all the people participating in the eclipse tomorrow, be safe with that. I mean, I know some schools are letting out early, so kids will be home. We live in some dangerous times, and I talked about earthquakes and a boat collapse on a bridge. Like this week, it'll be a whole new set of problems, right? A whole new set of problems, and we have to be able to adjust and pray and keep our families close. So again, Pastor Ed, thank you for what you brought. I do want to dive into this testimony conversation one day.
Hey, I already got the flyer ready, man. I've been waiting on this one.
Don't fall into it, Pastor Ed.
I won't be baited.
Thank you, Pastor Ed. Thank you for your family, your wife, who I see was commenting tonight, having that good support system. So thank you for everything. With that, we will say have a good night. Be safe. It's hard to believe we are a quarter into this year already, and there's nothing slowing down about it. So be safe. Please do not forget COVID is real. Please take your precautions as people are still dying and on ventilators. Have a blessed and safe night, everyone.
Amen.
Nice.
Night.
No.